On the morning of September 16, 1994, the students of a small private school outside Harare, Zimbabwe, went out for their mid-morning break. The teachers stayed inside for a staff meeting. 15 minutes later, the children came back in, and they were not the same. 62 of them, between roughly 6 and 12 years old, told the same story. Something had landed at the edge of the schoolyard, and something had gotten out. This is UAP Press. We don't tell you what to believe, we show you the record. The witnesses on the record, the accounts collected while they were fresh, and the documents that followed, and let the file speak for itself. This episode is different from our first three. There is no radar in this file, no government tape, only witnesses, and the witnesses were children. We will treat their testimony the way the record demands, seriously and carefully. Ariel School sits in Ruwa, farmland east of Harare. A small private primary school, a brick schoolhouse, a dirt playground, and beyond the playground's edge, a stretch of rough scrub and gum trees the children were told to stay out of. Snakes, the teachers said. 2 days earlier, the night sky over southern Africa had put on a show. A brilliant fireball, later attributed to the re-entry of a rocket stage, broke apart in streaks of light seen across the region. And for 48 hours, radio and playground talk alike were full of it. Hold that fact. It matters to both readings of what happened next. At about 10:15 on the morning of the 16th, the bell rang for break. Around 250 children went out. The staff, as it happened, went into a meeting. For the next quarter hour, the only adults with a view of the playground were a mother running the tuck shop, and she was busy. What follows is what the children reported, consistently, immediately, and in their own words. They described 3 or so silver objects moving over the tree line, disappearing and reappearing in flashes of red light. And then one of them descending, to hover or settle in the scrub just beyond the playground boundary, perhaps 100 meters from where they stood. And then, the children said, a small figure, just over a meter tall, in a tight black suit, appeared beside the object. Some said too. It moved, in their telling, strangely, as if in slow motion or as if the ground carried it. And then it noticed them noticing it. The detail that recurs in account after account is the eyes. Large, black, elongated eyes. And a feeling, several of the older children said, of being spoken to without sound. Not words exactly, images. A feeling about the world. About machines, about trees, about something coming. We report that the way they reported it, as an experience they could not fully put into language. The break ended. The children ran inside, some crying, some electric with excitement, the youngest ones frightened enough that teachers noticed immediately. Whatever happened in that quarter hour, something had plainly happened to them. The question that has stood for 30 years is, what? Here is what makes Ariel different from 1,000 playground stories. The record started forming the same day. Headmaster Mack did the single most valuable thing anyone did in this case. He separated the children and asked them to draw what they saw before they could compare notes at length. Dozens of drawings came back, the same silver craft, the same small dark figure, again and again, from hands that could barely hold a crayon. Within days, the BBC's Zimbabwe correspondent, Leach, was at the school with a camera, a hardened newsman by his own description, who would later say the story was harder to dismiss than anything the war had shown him. Cynthia Hind, a local investigator, interviewed children and teachers within the week, while memories were fresh. And 2 months later, the case drew the most credentialed visitor in its history, Dr. John Mack, Pulitzer Prize winner, professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, who flew to Ruwa with a colleague and spent days interviewing the children on camera, one by one. Mack's verdict was not that aliens had landed. It was narrower, and in a way more unsettling, that the children were not lying. That whatever they had experienced it. The accounts held together, the emotion was real, and 12-year-olds do not usually sustain a coordinated fiction under separate questioning. Honesty requires the footnote. Mack was, at that exact moment, the most controversial psychiatrist in America. His Harvard colleagues had opened an inquiry into his alien abduction research months earlier. His critics say he wanted to believe. His supporters note the inquiry ended with his academic freedom affirmed. Both facts belong in this file. Now the counter reading, at full strength. 2 days before the sighting, the sky had burned with that rocket re-entry, and the airwaves were full of UFO talk. Children are imaginative, suggestible, and social. One influential child sees something, a stranger in the scrub, a trick of light, names it, and the story propagates through a playground in minutes. Psychologists call it a psychogenic episode. It has happened before, in schools, exactly like this. The Skeptics file has more. No adult saw anything. Not the tuck shop mother, not a single teacher through a window. No physical trace was found in the scrub. And the interviews that made the case famous came later, from investigators who believed. Questions like, what did the being make you feel, which assumed the being? Memory, especially a child's, is soft clay for questions like that. All of that deserves its full weight. And then the other pan of the scale. The drawings came the same day, before the famous interviews. The accounts agree not just on a craft, but on odd, unchildlike details. The slow-motion movement, the eyes, the wordless communication, across 62 children of different ages who were then separated. A playground rumor explains a story. It strains to explain that much coherence that fast. And there is the part no 1990 skeptic predicted. The children grew up. In a documentary released nearly 3 decades later, the adult witnesses, professionals now, scattered across continents with nothing to gain, sat down on camera and told the same story. Several wept telling it. Whatever happened at Ariel School, it did not fade the way imagination does. This series has shown you radar, tapes, and government files. Ariel has none of that, and that is precisely why it belongs in the record. Because the UAP question, at its base, has always been a question about witnesses. How many, how consistent, and for how long? Ariel is the purest witness test ever run. 62 of them, one story, 30 years and counting. The file cannot close in either direction. The psychogenic reading has real force. The fireball, the suggestibility, the silent adults. The testimony has real force. The same-day drawings, the coherence, the permanence. What the record will not permit is the lazy version of either. These children were not coached frauds, and their experience has not been explained. 62 children came in from break with one story, and 30 years have not shaken it. The Nimitz file has better sensors. Belgium has better data. Ariel has something neither of them has. Witnesses who were too young to have an agenda, and who never changed their minds. 3 years later, and half a world away, the question scaled up. Thousands of people across an American state watched a mile-wide formation of lights drift over their cities. And the governor who publicly laughed it off spent his last years admitting he saw it too. That's the next case file. Subscribe so you don't miss it. This is UAP Press. The file stays open.